Welcome back to another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast, where the name kind of explains the whole premise, We built our businesses, we made a lot of mistakes on the way, so do the things we're telling you to do, don't do the things that we did when we were building our businesses at the beginning. Each week I bring on a different guest who is an expert at a different part of the industry, salespeople, narrative people, investment, founders, like everyone who's really smart, we bring them onto the podcast to work out how to actually build a great business. And then together, the guests and I workshop problems going on in your businesses. So if you have a challenge or a fire or just something going on that you want us to talk about and you want us to workshop, we've got advice for you. So if you've got those problems, send them through to podcast@joelditrapani.com. As always, that will be in the show notes because I know my name is a mouthful to spell. I am your host, Joel DiTrapani. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Vigo, which is an edtech scale-up. We've grown it through Australia, grown it through the UK, and now I'm in the US because the US is the promised land. It is so much bigger here and there's so much potential for us to keep on scaling. On top of that, I'm also an advisor and a coach in the product space where I help startups and businesses work out how to build great product teams so you can actually build great products, because I did that the wrong way for a long time before I actually learned how to do it. And today, I'm excited to be joined by Jordan Allen, who is a very successful multi-time founder. In 2011, Jordan founded and scaled Stay Alfred, a next-generation hospitality platform that he grew to over $100 million in annual revenue, serving over 1 million guests across 40 markets with a team of more than 300 people. After this, Jordan then founded Doorsey, which is a platform that makes buying a home 100 times easier, which he sold just this year to Auction.io. While Jordan has obviously had a lot of success in business, my favorite achievement is that he took investment from Adam Neumann, which means Jordan sold the best salesperson alive. So Jordan is an expert at scaling businesses and he's an exceptionally good at creating sales narratives. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. Welcome, mate. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm excited to chat. We've had several chats before, but this is the first one I believe that's been recorded.
Yeah, well, all the ones I've been recording and keeping secretly, but this is the first one we'll release. Well, man, before we get into the challenges and the questions today, tell us, what are you working on now? You've just Doorsies, kind of closing out a little bit. Where's the energy going?
Yeah. Well, I've been working on several different things, and I haven't been doing a fantastic job on any of them because I keep running down. Like on Monday, I'm running north. Tuesday, I'm running east. And then at the end of the week, I look back and I'm like, I'm right back in the middle again. Like I never got anywhere. But I think that process it's frustrating, but it's natural. And it's something that you have to do to discover. Like for me, I'm wired wrong. Like there's things I could do that would make money, that would be like, go buy a business that already makes money and then scale it, or get into like the trades businesses and, consolidate. But I like to, I need to get out of bed and be excited. And so I like to do big things that, have a higher chance of failure. And I just wish that was different.
It's doing hard things with a chance of failure. Founders don't often think right. And that's definitely a good example of that. Well, on that, I guess it's super exciting to hear, like, you're in that kind of experimentation phase. I'm really excited to see what you do next. I know we've chatted about a few of those ideas offline, but, I'm excited to see which one you end up going with and how you scale that one once you get it out there into the world.
Yeah, I mean, like, my first love was in the hospitality space. I really love this, like, intersection of, like, real estate, technology, brand, logistics. They're hard businesses. And so it's hard to not go back into the short-term rental space, but man, everybody's getting crushed right now. It's like doom and gloom again. I'm a military guy. It's like going into Vietnam. You're like, should we go back in or not? And you're talking to all your friends on the front lines and, they're all getting blown up. It's brutal. And so although that's been my first passion, I've started to explore this online retail returns business. And it's supposedly like 1.5% of the entire US GDP. It is enormous. It's a major problem. These really highly efficient warehouses are built to, scale, low touch inventory, get it out as quickly as you can. But when these items come back and they're returned, It's now high touch, low throughput, unpredictable price, unpredictable condition, and nobody's really solving it on a larger kind of national scale. So that's where I've been spending a lot of time kind of assessing and doing due diligence with different partners. But I think there's a lot of promise there, and there's a few business models that are interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's a lot of money. 1.5%. That is a huge amount of money to be tackled. Well,
Yeah, and
let's jump into the questions today.
Goes into the incinerator, or a lot of it goes into the dump, and there's a huge environmental problem, which is cool to solve. But it's probably the first time that I've got into an industry that like didn't attack, like with Doorsey. Real estate agents felt like it was very threatening. It was a harder sell because we did make the home buying process so simple. With Stay Alfred, the hotel lobby, the affordable housing components, like it was an attack. This is solving problems at both ends of the spectrum, and yeah, it's exciting, but it's an execution, operational business for sure.
Yeah, there are some challenges there, but you've done challenging things before, so I'm excited, and we'll stay up to date, and we'll get you on the podcast again, and we can get an update on that program,
for sure, that'd be great.
project again. Well, let's use the rest of today. Let's jump into some questions. So this first one is called, "The scale of my startup is crushing me. I run a startup. We've been in business for about 3 years now, but things have really exploded in the past year. We went from 2 employees to 15, from five clients to 35. This sounds like amazing news. This is all I ever wanted, but it's really taking a toll on me. I'm the only sales executive. I'm the only person in my company that can close deals right now. I know this is an issue. I'm working on it. All the same, both revenue and expenses have 10x'd. If I screw up even the slightest, I will be crushed. I was sick as hell today. Fever and everything. Then it dawned on me, I'm no longer allowed to be sick. So I did my 8 hours of sales calls, apologizing to my clients between my coughing fits. Exceptional input and output doesn't even feel exceptional anymore. What used to be exceptional is now the norm. What used to be the norm is now failure. And what used to be failure is now, well, probably bankruptcy. It feels like I've built the thing I've always wanted, and now I'm struggling under it being crushed as long as I hold it together." From Necro King 695.
I think we've all been there. I think we've all felt that. There isn't a silver bullet of advice that is like this thing that solves that. But I would say the thing that's helpful is it really is about your people and your team, and this is what's worked for me. I wasn't always a big believer in like corporate values, like do things the right way and all these other things, until someone explained it to me and I saw the path. And so we had the 4 H's at Stay Alfred: happy, humble, high performing, and loyal, because we couldn't figure out an H word that meant loyal. And so what ends up happening is, like, when you start to analyze your people, and like you have a bunch of negative people that are bringing you down. They hate their wife, they hate their kids, they hate their product, they hate the customers. Like, that's, you got to be happy. You have humble, like, are they willing to learn? Are they know-it-alls? Like, it's stressful and sucks the life out of your body when somebody is a know-it-all, and then that they don't know. High performing. We originally had hardworking, and we found that there was a lot of people that were a great fit in all of our values, and they were hardworking, but they weren't high performing, and it just we had to change that. So, high performing is like, how are you measuring the success of your people? A lot of young founders, unfortunately, wait for a year to tell somebody they're not doing a good job. It's like, you fired me after a year and you thought I was doing a bad job for a year. You never said anything. So, like, immediate feedback, and having some like simple metrics that you can track, to see if people are performing or not. Like, obviously it's a scoreboard. You're not running a nonprofit. You're not doing a charity event. Like, you need to have more revenue coming in than you have expense. And then loyal, like, are people constantly threatening to leave? Are they unhappy there? Or they're going to leave another job for $1 an hour or, a higher pay. It's like, you need people in a startup that are dedicated to the mission because it's so hard. Like everything's stacked against you. It's like landing on the moon. You have to do extraordinary things and have extraordinarily dedicated people to do these types of things. And so if they're not really loyal, then it's kind of like, you don't have room for them on the ship.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this guy from or Necromonger is like, I have to do everything myself. It's such a common founder thing because really it's just maybe they're not good at delegating. It's like you should be bringing people on that are taking items off of your plate and they're delivering a product that is better than you could have delivered it. And I also understand like, hey, there's capital, there's, you can't pay everybody big dollars, but what I found is like your big dollar people don't perform any better than your right out of, college, maybe a job or two, hardworking, hungry, want to figure it out. They want to be let off the leash. It's easier to pull people back that are aggressive than to like have to kick people in the butt to get them to go. I don't even know if I answered that question,
guess,
but
that's right. That's what this is about. It's about taking some inspiration and then giving as much advice as we can fit in to an episode. But I guess for me, going from that 5 to 15 is an uncomfortable position, and the way you operate at 5 people, it can't work at the same way you operate 15 people. There'll be some similarities, and at the end of the day, they're going to look to you in a big way, but you've kind of got, I think you have 2 key problems. The one is that you're leading wrong, and you probably have the wrong people. And it could just be one of those things. But, if everything is so dependent on you, then you don't have a good team.
Yep.
And that's because you haven't built a good team. So if you're the only person that can be in sales calls, if everything is so dependent on you not even be able to have 8 hours off because you're sick because the company's going to die, like you need to make some serious changes.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, you've done amazing things, man. Like,
yeah, I've got a perfect analogy for this.
You go, sorry.
Somebody gave me this analogy, and they weren't even in the military, but it was perfect. In the military, you go through 4 phases of an operation. You have storming the beach, you have occupational phase, policing phase, and governance phase. And so when you look at like storming the beach, you're carrying machine guns. Like there aren't rules. It's like get off the beach, anything goes. Like worry about it later. You don't have time to think. That's like a startup. It's like, you got people that are drinking beer in the middle of the day and they're like, partying, and you're partying with your group of people. It's like fun. It's exciting. Like you don't get to do that same kind of stuff later on. Then you start to move in occupational phase where, hey, we got 15 people now. Like we need a payroll system and we need a, task management system. And we need we start to build out a little bit of an org chart and like delineate responsibilities, but it's still pretty wild and fun, And then you get into policing where it's like, no, like you need to show up at 8:00. Here's you start putting rules in place. And then you go into governance where you're such a big company that you can't really even innovate anymore. There's so many layers of bureaucracy. Like you have to buy and acquire companies to innovate. It's a giant cruise ship. Like when you need to turn left, it's like turn left, all the way down to the engine room. And then 4 hours later, you start to turn. And so the point is like when you put somebody from the storming the beach phase with the machine gun covered in like mud and blood, the cigarette hanging out of their mouth, and now put them in like the office setting with bureaucracy and like it doesn't work. Like you take a big time CEO from General Electric and you put them in a 5-person startup, like it doesn't function, and vice versa. And so I think when you're evaluating your people, like the people that were the storm the beach people may not necessarily be the ones that move you into the organizational phase and keeping things on track and managing things daily. Like you're going from a creator to a manager. Different types of people.
Yeah, you're definitely moving from like an individual contributor to a leader, and that means that you need to spend less time being a player and more time being a coach. So, like you obviously know how to do like really crazy awesome stuff, like being able to 5x your business this year. It sounds like, or 7x. From 5 clients to 35 or something. Like that's crazy. Like that's that's so awesome that you've done that.
Well, and the
But
reason this
that can
person's
only go so far.
yeah, and the reason this person keeps jumping in is there's like the 5 C's of trust. And it's like, do you think that person's competent? Do you think they're like compassionate? There's a whole series on this kind of stuff. But like the reason you're jumping in and doing the work for them is because you don't trust them to do it. So like really understanding that, like why is that the case? And unfolding that is like going to be the only way for you to, continue to grow and scale your business. And then you're going to evolve 5 or 6 times before you get there.
That's a good point. This actually primarily is about trust. So I've gone through this as well. There was a long time where I didn't want to let go of any of the actions in my startup. I want to have complete oversight, and then I would just take over all of the time. And that can work for a long time, but you do need to outgrow that. And if you can't outgrow that trait, then you can't really outgrow the scale that you've reached, and you are going to continually be at risk to you getting so sick you can't work for a day.
Yeah.
So it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes you investing in your people. Investing in your people, give them a chance, give them autonomy, see if they can work, see if they can operate at the level you need. And if they can't with your training, you probably need different people, because you need people that you can rely on and that you can trust and that can deliver the work. And then once you get those people, then you can spend more time leading the company, because that's where you need to change to now.
I talk to a lot of people and they're like, I know my team. These people aren't going to be the ones to get there. Like I'm going to have to bring in a whole fresh set of people. And like, I'm a sports guy. I played college football. And when your coach doesn't believe in you, it ruins you. And so there's such a fine balance of, giving the people the chances, because you haven't really maybe seen them get to that level before, but you've also never maybe really allowed them to go because they do it differently than you do and you don't like the way they do it. But like, that's why the scoreboard is so important, because like how you score a basket in a basketball game, 3-pointer, low down post, free throws. There's so many different ways to score. They're going to score different than you, but like, that's why the scoreboard's there. Cause like, are you winning or are you losing? And that should allow you to get some of the trust to, overcome that. When people have to hire outside for their promotions, or like you're going to open up a new role, they don't believe in anybody in their company. Like that sucks. There's nothing better than promoting internally and giving people the chance and like, hoping for the best before you have to go outside. And that just shows like the organization that you believe in the team. It's hard to do.
I've had mixed success with that, to be honest. So earlier on in our startup journey, I was like, it's our people or nothing. And I also think that's the wrong way to approach it. I think, where we landed is that it's about, I need the absolute best person for the role, and I will give you a crack, but it's not promise, If you want to get there, when this role becomes available, Jordan, I'm going to give you every possible chance. But if you don't get the score, we're going to go outside, So I think like it's belief with like serious accountability.
It's accountability. Yeah. I see this all the time where I hear founders like, gosh, I got this guy in sales or marketing or whatever, and they're doing a terrible job. Well, do they know they're doing a terrible job? Well, I kind of sat down and talked with them. Well, what did you say to them? Well, I was like, there's room for some improvement. And well, like, did you get specific? Did you like talk about the things like, did you really create a measurable so they could, that's what I love about scoreboards. There's some people that play some ugly soccer that are scoring goals and winning games, and so like at the end of the day, that's kind of, what matters. Are you having a good time doing what you're doing, and are you growing and, making the people's lives around you better and like building something the world needs? Like that's, really exciting. And I just find so many founders that are afraid to talk to their people and let them know that they're having issues with them. And then over time it builds and builds and builds. And then it's the most passive aggressive behavior that you can have. And it scares everybody in your organization. Like, maybe I'm the one that's doing a bad job and you didn't say anything either. Like that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. clear communication and transparent communication and accountability, it's so important.
Yeah.
But I guess let's try and bring this one to a close here. Let's try and bring this one to a final judgment. So this guy, he's radically scaled his business. It's his whole dreams come true. But now the pressure of that scale is crushing him because it's all on him. What does he have to do? What kind of changes does he have to make?
He is so worried and so his body is overwhelmed with fear of losing, and you didn't get to like enjoy the journey. Like when you look back at anything difficult you did in your life, going through Ranger School, being in combat, like those are the best memories I've ever had. Like the memories of like relaxing on the couch and having a beer. Like I don't remember really, maybe outside of yesterday, ever doing that. They're not formed memories. And so I think it's good to like step back and be like, he thinks he's in control of the outcome, and like you can influence the outcome, but there's a lot of things that can happen. So enjoy the journey, like understand that like things can fail. You go through market cycles, you get new competitors, you get, the venture world right now is on fire of what's going to happen. And so, he's built this perfect thing and he's afraid of losing it, and it's making him miserable. Like, and he needs to enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Enjoy the journey is good advice. So
it's hard to do. And by the way, it sounds easy. It's hard to do because you're like, I took investor money, or I got people, my employees are getting married and they're getting like, some guy just bought a house. Do they know that we're not financially great right now? Why did somebody do that? What the hell were they thinking? They just had a baby. Idiots. And it's, and it's, you start to like take the burden on for everybody, and you think that you're a bigger deal in the world than you are. Like nobody's going to remember, like you're not that important. Sorry. Like, enjoy the journey, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends. It can all end, there's a lot of things that can happen. Enjoy it.
Okay. So Necro King 695, at the end of the day, you've done incredible things so far. Like really be proud and enjoy what you've been able to achieve. It's not many people ever get to that. And you're right, you've achieved this thing you always dreamed of, but you've gone into a new phase and it's different, and you have to manage and lead so differently, and you can't be on the tool. So you need to build up the people around you, and you need to trust them, and you need to put the accountability, you need to give them the space to grow and to achieve that. And if they don't if they don't get the points on the board, if they don't score those shots, you're going to have to change them out. But I would say just get a coach, get a mentor who's done this before and can actually help you implement the explicit processes you need, because this is a hard space to be, and someone who's been there before can make that a whole lot easier for you. But look, we'll wrap that one up. Jordan, I'm still looking for my final kind of, sign off for each question, so if you've got any pitches, you can throw them in here, but we've been going with, you've been advised, or Necro King, do as I say. So if you've got any pitches, we can add them in at the end of these questions too. All right.
Any pitches?
So pitches for how to close the questions out, like a tagline for when we give someone advice.
Yeah, man, to be able to sum that up in a few words is a high paying, high dollar per hour role. That's above my pay grade.
All right. Well, we'll move into question 2. I thought this would be good because you've gone through this a number of times now. What's harder, 0 to 1 startup or 1 to 1,000 scale up? I'm hoping to get perspective on a question that I've been noodling a lot lately. What's harder, starting a business and getting into product market fit and a little bit of growth, or taking that business and growing it to 10 million plus? I'm also interested in hearing about the various pros and cons of each stage. For example, scaling is hard operationally, or startup is hard due to imposter syndrome, etc. I don't know, just any advice would be helpful. From Singing Vike.
So this is interesting. I'm guessing this person hasn't gone through a startup before. Otherwise, they would probably know the answer. 0 to 1 is like, that kind of goes back to the storming the beach thing we talked about. It's a different type of person. Like, to go through, and it is so hard, and you make assumptions and you think you're right, and they can be logical. They can be sound with psychology and research, and then you're wrong. And you're wrong because of, are you too early? Are you too late? Is the world not ready for it? Like there's so many like pieces of technology that, were developed. Like look at the electric car. Like there's a lot of people that were maybe too early, or they just like didn't quite have the vision. Like sexy sports car was like the initial starting point, not like science lab dumping garbage in the back and making it run. There's just like sometimes there's 3-degree tweaks in timing and they take off. Like I look at Airbnb, who I'm a huge fan of. There was Craigslist, shared rooms and vacation rentals. There was couch surfing, which was like, if it wasn't couch surfing, but it was like bedroom surfing where you got like a whole bedroom instead of a couch, like literally could have been just a bad name that prevented it. So there's that's the problem with 0 and 1 is you spend a lot of time figuring out if something's going to work or not. And a lot of people don't have the intestinal fortitude to deal with that.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like that analogy is really good about, which part of, the army analogy is it, but they're just, I keep flipping back and forth when I think about this. Like they're just both really hard for different reasons. And I think it depends on the kind of person you are. I would say, statistically, 0 to 1 is harder. And that's just because most businesses never achieve that. But then it's hard to say because, the ones that achieve that are special, so they're also just generally able to achieve the scale. But finding the problem at the exact right time in a completely unknown world with no resources or limited resources, like it's a near impossible task. But then scaling it's so challenging for different reasons.
I got to spend 45 minutes in a cab ride from San Francisco down to Silicon Valley with the CEO of Ancestry.com. And they had 2 weeks of cash left. And it was, do I pay rent? Do I pay my employees? Like it's fallen on its face. And then they got a call from an investor like, hey, fly to Salt Lake City. This is right up our alley. We're big in like genealogy. So they got a huge check out of nowhere, saved the business. And now they're like, I don't know, multi-billion-dollar enormous company. And like, if they hadn't got that one phone call, or maybe that person in Salt Lake had a bad day, or, the market was down, or they saw a scary movie on Netflix that prevented them from doing, like, so many things can happen like that. But they did get that call. And then you have, companies like, remote work that, went out of business in January of 2020, that if they had stayed around for another 3 months and had like a collaborative work platform for decentralized offices, maybe they'd be $1 billion unicorn right now. But their timing was just a few months off. There's so many things that can happen in business that, I think it's easier when you're replicating a business that already exists, like a gas station, a grocery store, things that already are around. But when you're building something from 0 to 1 that doesn't exist, or that's a totally different change on it, light years harder.
Yeah, I guess, I've been thinking about it the same way as you. So I'm imagining 0 to 1 is something that doesn't exist. 0 to 1 when you're copying something, that's kind of, it's not easy, but it's an order of magnitude easier. And I guess if that makes me think that 0 to 1 is the harder thing. And it's because 0 to 1 requires belief in something that doesn't exist and has no proof points yet. So you have to believe in something that no one else believes in, and it makes you seem crazy at times. And so like, at least with that 1 to 1,000, it works. There are different challenges and it's different scale, but you fundamentally know people want this. And it's just a matter of doing the right actions at the right times with the right people.
How many times have you heard a pitch where you're like, oh, interesting, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life? A year later, 6 months later, whatever, 5 years later, like that is a multi-billion-dollar company. Imagine pitching Airbnb. Like you're gonna have people come sleep on your air mattress in your living room and make them breakfast. Air mattress, bed and breakfast. You're gonna let strangers ride in your car. I mean, you've all heard about these things.
Yeah.
I had a guy who's like, hey man, I've got like this fitness equipment. It's a mirror, and we should hang him in all the Stay Alfred units. and like you like work out with a trainer on the mirror. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. 6 months later, sold a Lululemon for 500 million. I'm like,
wow,
dang it, like that was cool. Maybe like that's where it's just, everybody is passionate about their thing. You can't know everything. I look at these venture investors and like how they make decisions, why they make decisions. They follow the herd. There's safety in numbers. They're investing money. If everybody else is doing it, they don't get fired. If nobody else is doing it, they will get fired. So, everybody's kind of following the herd in a lot of this stuff. So to be a 0 to 1 guy that's not following the herd and doing something new is just, it's a special person.
Yeah. Well, look, let's close that one out. I think we got to a good consensus here. So the final judgment is 0 to 1 is harder, and it's because of the blind faith that you need, that belief in a future that you can create, which is, it's magic, and not to say that 1 to 1,000 is harder, is not hard. Like that's really freaking hard too, but you fundamentally know it works. So you've been advised. Thank you for writing that one in as well. So we've only got time for one more section of the show, and that's plugs. So Jordan, what do you want to plug? What's going on in your life right now? Any socials you want to plug? Any books you've been reading that you liked?
Gosh, what do I want to plug? What do I want to plug? I really like. So I'm a huge classic car enthusiast, and there is a website called Bring a Trailer, and maybe maybe you're familiar with it, maybe you're not. It's like the worst name on the planet. People always ask me like their business names and what should it. Honestly, there's so many bad ones out there. As long as it's not like offensive, like probably just find the cheapest domain name you can buy. But they have created this platform that is like full disclosure, full confidence to buy a 75-year-old car that could have an infinite number of things wrong with it. Give consumers the confidence. They built a community. And I just think that like the platform they built, we tried to do that kind of replicate it for Doorsey, and we misunderstood some of the real estate agent like dynamics and consumers like passion levels around it. But I just think that this like online auction format to process like hard to price items is going to be a massive wave, similar to like how dynamic pricing solved a lot of issues for hotels. I think the auction style model is going to continue to gain popularity because it's the most efficient and perfect way to price. So if anybody has like any kind of auction related like things that they're doing, like I'd love to know more about it. The psychology, the science behind it is so fascinating of like how it works. So reach out. I'd love to, you can put my email address or phone number or something in the notes here. All right. If anybody wants to take it. Well, I get a million spam calls anyways.
Yeah, we'll include that in the show notes. Probably just the email, to be honest. But we'll definitely put that there and hit Jordan up. And then look, on my side, don't forget to like and subscribe. Get out your favorite platform, whether it's YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever. Hit 5 stars, hit subscribe, download every episode. And then as I say every episode as well, pull out your friends' phones, your family's phones, rate and subscribe on their platforms as well, because we love the support. And thank you to everyone who writes the questions in. We love answering these questions. They're super fun. It's a really fun workshop for us, and hopefully you guys get a lot of advice. So if you have any questions as well, send them through to podcast@joeldtrapani.com, and we'll include them on an upcoming show. And lastly, I love talking about this stuff. Jordan and I always call each other with different ideas. We love workshopping. So look, if you have ideas or questions or challenges in the product space, book some time with me. My booking link's in the calendar as well, in the show notes as well. You can see my calendar. Let's get on a call. I'd love to kind of chat about the problems you're going through too. And that's going to wrap this one up. So look, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really fun to learn about some of your experiences and your ideas for this space. It was a great conversation.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun.
This has been another episode of the Do As I Say podcast. We'll see you all next week.